Afternoon.
Good afternoon. And the plan for today is I'm going to start with our real topic, right? So far, we actually talk about the analytics part, but today we are going to talk about big data analytics, basically the actual topic, right? Why we have done analytics in the beginning, since you have to have some background to understand the material. So today I'm not going to actually teach you the technical stuff, but briefly I'm planning to discuss the ideas and the software tools available for big data, as well as like how, as those are following MBA, like what you can actually get it from here and contribute to your organization. So that's basically my plan. Okay, then. Let me start with first of all overview. I'm going to discuss what a big data is and why we call big data, right? Why we call it really big. And then after we discuss briefly the definition, we are going to discuss a couple of examples or most common examples. So you can actually relate this to your organization as well. Then we also discuss characteristics. So when we say big data, there are different perspectives. So we are going to discuss these different perspectives under characteristics of big data. Then the challenges, right? So when we say challenges, there are different issues when you want to handle big data, right? We will discuss different aspects and then the challenges. I will discuss with some of the companies like how much data that they actually handle and so on. Then once we have the big data problem, you challenges, we'll discuss the solutions. Basically we are going to talk about something called Hadoop ecosystem. That means Hadoop and the related technologies developed to handle big data. And then we discuss about the deployment thing, and then we finally we are going to discuss big data for MBA in the business perspective, right? Right now, you are actually not coming from IT industry, so usually early days we assume that the IT department is responsible for analytics, but it's not really. Okay. And then finally, Weka also capable of big data analytics. So I'm going to discuss that as the last one, right? So whatever you have learned so far, actually you can continue with what we did in the course, right? So there are some capability in Weka, but you have to know like how exactly you are going to handle it. I'm going to briefly discuss how to handle big data with Weka and what are the possibilities we might have. So what is big data, right? So there are different definitions. I'm going to select a couple of them, but most commonly I use like a couple of references. So I'll start with the very first one. So big data refers to large data sets, right? When you say large, right, it's really huge, right? Not if you take the data today, we actually work quite large data set. When we say, it should be large enough so that we cannot, handle. We don't have computational power to handle that, right? Right now, in this particular course, I have been given a couple of data sets, and then you actually use your computers to analyze them. But when the data gets big, it takes time. Either you have to spend like days to get your model, or else your computers fail, right? Your memories are not enough, right? So if you look at the big data in the database perspective, Elmasri and Namathi is the two authors I use, for example, for to teach the database management systems, and then they look at the database perspective, and they say Big data refers to the data sets whose size is beyond the ability to typical database of tables. Right now, I hope that every one of you are working with data in some manner, and sometimes it will come from some database, isn't it? Um, so, but then when the data gets big, the database management system software fails, right? So you have difficulty to capture the data, storage, and also manage, and also the analysis, right? So then that's also big data. So the third one, it says that the big data is data that exceeds the processing capability of or the capacity of conventional database systems. So like Access, if you're familiar with the Access, MySQL, SQL Server, whatever the database that you are familiar with, you used to get the data from some database. So conventional database fails. So when you say big data, data is too big to have large amounts of data. Like if you look at, for example, the internet, for example, you have huge amount of data on the internet, like putting it to a one database is not going to work, right? Or moves fast, that means you are keep on getting data. Now, for example, think about Facebook, think about Twitter, like how much data comes in when you get a particular minute or a second, right? So this is like coming too fast. So your database management systems unable to handle this. So that is another reason why we called the big data, right? And this not fit to your structure. Now, for example, usual format we talk about is called relational databases. Now we are going to put into data into tables, and then we are going to consider different relations among these tables. So it's not going to fit this new data. Now, for example, if you take Facebook, for example, in a Facebook post, you have text, you have images, and so on. Sometimes you can't put into a particular relation, so it's difficult, right? So all these comes under the umbrella term, the big data, right? Let's look at examples. So let's look at some examples where we talk about what you mean by this big data, right? First one, clickstream data. Now, for example, now since we are like coming from the business industry or business domain, you know that if you have your organization, you have some e-commerce site where you want to look at like what customers are looking in your website, what they click, where they click, right? So this click data, like where they clicking, where they will go, and so on. This is called clickstream. So, for example, people used to collect this information whenever customer visited their websites. They collect, customer information, how they interact with your website, and this is called clickstream. So, this data could be used to improve your website, for example, or promote or customize the web interface for the users. So, this is also possible. So, and it's huge, right? So you are going to record each click with the timestamp and also the location. So then you have a huge data like analyzing, storing, managing. This will be a very, very, very difficult, right? So this is one example. Then social networks. Now, for example, when it comes to business domain, you have sometimes you put some products, yeah, and people they, let's say customers, they may share, sometimes you ask them to like your page, interaction happens. So learning with these social networks, because the social network generates huge amount of data which we are unable to store, keep track of, also like mind the relations, for example, customer relations, getting customer relation from the social networks, very, very important. Now, for example, you are interested in, let's say you have a company and you have a product, you are interested in knowing like how people or customers interact with your product, right? So this is very, very important, make decision. Sometimes you want to know like what are the popular products among the the products, right? So this is very, very important. and collect. To do that, you have to collect the information on the social networks, collecting them, managing them, getting you know important patterns is it will be very difficult, right? Okay, third one, very important. If you take nowadays, right, smartphones, especially location-based services. Now, if the government wants to know about, for example, whether their citizens, whether they adhere the rules imposed by the government, they can easily do this. And actually, Google, tracks you. I don't know whether you have switch on your locations, right? If you switch on locations of Google, actually Google can give you like where you have traveled within a day, and then you can give a summary if they want. So governments can use this information. For example, I know Google has the information to look at this mobility among different countries. So because this with this COVID-19 pandemic, so they have developed a piece of software to check like their movements that can be tracked. Now you know that sometimes we can use smartphone location based services to see the interaction of your customers. Now for example, let's say you have a shopping mall, you want to know like how customers actually interact with the different products, and also they are traveling around the shopping mall to organize the information, right? So that could be used. Again, the problem is then it's a huge amount of data it will generate, right? If you think of the customers, the locations, and everything need to be stored, and it's not traditional database problem. And then we have web server logs. You know that all the information are put into server computers, so we call web servers. So they are actually generate what we call the logs customer, which is any failures, attacks, everything is recorded as log files. Analyzing them, it's not easy, right? You have a free structure from usually different error codes are there. So analyzing the information available in the web server, it's very difficult. Then data streams from instruments. Now, I hope that you have heard the word IoT, Internet of Things. Now, everything is recorded in this century. Now, for example, if you go anywhere, now with the COVID-19 pandemic, like you have temperature sensors. We have equipments where they can automatically monitor, uh, patients, not patient citizens, and then see the there are like people with possibility of having this virus affected ones, like by looking at the temperature value. And I heard that in somewhere media said that like someone actually developed a piece of software for mobile phones by listening the what do you call the voice of, not the sound of cough. Once you cough, they used to predict whether the people actually suffering from COVID-19 and so on, right? So things actually develop on this. Like you can collect a lot of information from these different sensors. We have temperature sensors, right, and also like sounds. Everything is now collected. And we have voice-based services, so all this information can be collected to make decisions. Again, it will generate huge amount of data, and handling them will be very difficult, right? And then we will have real-time trading data. Now if you look at the stock market and how volatile they are, like fractions of a second is very important, because in these places a fraction of a second means the amount of money that you are going to handle is huge, right? So it's very important for you to work on with the fractions of seconds.